The chamber was still empty except for the quiet shuffle of papers and the low hum of cameras waiting to record history. It was one of those hearings that no one expected to explode, until it did. At the center sat Pam Bondi, poised and confident, her expression carved in stone. Across from her, Jasmine Crockett leaned forward with the calm of someone who had already survived tougher rooms than this one. What began as routine testimony was about to turn into a confrontation the entire country would remember. The moderator's gavel tapped twice. Questions were meant to stay procedural, but politics rarely obeys procedure. When Bondi spoke, her voice carried the kind of practiced authority that fills a room long before meaning does. She smiled, not warmly, but sharply, as she warned Crockett to be careful with her words, that certain statements could come back to haunt her. The phrase echoed like a threat disguised as advice. Cameras zoomed in. Audiences across the nation would later replay that sentence frame by frame, studying every flicker of tone, every shift in Bondi's posture. For a brief second, silence settled, the kind that feels like the breath before lightning. Crockett didn't move. Her hands rested on the desk, fingers interlaced, her eyes fixed on Bondi as though measuring whether the warning came from arrogance or fear. Around them, aides pretended to type while glancing up, sensing that something rare was unfolding. Not just a disagreement, but a battle over who truly controls the story when power is challenged in public. Then Crockett spoke, and the tone of the entire room changed. Her voice was steady, precise, not raised, not trembling. She thanked Bondi for the concern, then added, "I don't scare easily, especially when I know I'm standing on the right side of the law." It was subtle, polite even, but it landed like a blow wrapped in velvet. The cameras caught Bondi's blink, a single, involuntary reaction that betrayed irritation. The audience at home didn't miss it. Neither did social media. Behind that single exchange lay months of tension. Crockett had become a rising figure known for her blunt honesty and ability to slice through political theater with surgical calm. Bondi, once celebrated for her fearlessness, now faced critics who accused her of turning justice into performance. To the viewers, the hearing wasn't just about facts. It was about watching two opposing worlds collide. Establishment confidence against emerging truth. As the moderator shifted to the next question, the air remained charged. Bondi's team whispered among themselves, exchanging glances that said, "This isn't over." Crockett jotted a note, her face unreadable. For the first time in years, Bondi looked uncertain, not defeated, but aware that she'd met someone immune to her brand of intimidation. Outside the chamber, reporters felt the tremor before the headlines even broke. Clips began uploading within minutes. The phrase "tread carefully" was already trending, and political commentators were dissecting it like forensic evidence. Some said Bondi meant it as a caution. Others heard something colder, a threat from the powerful to the principled. By nightfall, the confrontation had become more than news. It was a cultural flashpoint. Every great political drama begins with a single spark, and this was it. Bondi, used to controlling the narrative, had underestimated the effect of warning someone who refused to bow. Crockett's restraint, the way she absorbed the blow and returned calm for condescension, gave people something rare in modern politics: dignity under pressure. It reminded viewers of what integrity looks like when cornered. What followed was the unraveling. Bondi's allies doubled down, accusing Crockett of overreacting. Crockett's supporters rallied, arguing that such warnings had long been used to silence voices that made power uncomfortable. Television panels turned the exchange into a symbol: the old guard versus the new conscience of America. By morning, the hearing transcript had been downloaded, quoted, and shared by millions who saw in it a reflection of their own frustration, of being told to stay quiet when the truth burned too loudly to contain. And still, through all the noise, one question lingered. What exactly did Bondi mean by tread carefully? Was it a lawyer's caution, or the slip of someone too used to authority to recognize the weight of her own words? Crockett's calm response gave the phrase new meaning. She hadn't raised her voice or pointed a finger. She'd simply refused to shrink. That refusal spoke louder than any headline. In the days that followed, footage of the hearing dominated every feed. News anchors played it in slow motion. Influencers remixed it with dramatic soundtracks. One clip, Crockett's faint smile after delivering her line, became the new symbol of unshakable grace under fire. Commentators called it the moment the tide turned. For many, it wasn't about politics anymore. It was about power meeting its match. Behind closed doors, Bondi's circle scrambled. Statements were drafted, edited, and scrapped. She didn't mean it as a threat, one aide insisted. She was urging professionalism. But language is like smoke. Once it escapes, it takes its own shape. The phrase had already entered the public lexicon, shorthand for every instance where someone in power tried to intimidate dissent. Tread carefully had become a warning to the wrong side. Meanwhile, Crockett stayed silent. No interviews, no victory laps, just quiet professionalism. Her restraint did what no press release could. It amplified her credibility. The more Bondi's team explained, the more defensive they looked. Public opinion tilted. Editorials praised Crockett's composure. Even rivals acknowledged her discipline. She had turned an attack into an advertisement for integrity. The next hearing came a week later, and tension buzzed through the halls like static. When Bondi entered, reporters leaned forward. Would she address the controversy? Would she double down or pivot? She began her remarks as usual, measured, authoritative. But a flicker of unease crossed her face when Crockett walked in. The room remembered. Cameras remembered. The nation remembered. Midway through the session, a journalist shouted a question. "Do you regret saying, 'tread carefully'?" Bondi paused, smiled tightly, and said, "I think everyone should choose their words responsibly, myself included." It was as close to an apology as she would offer. The clip circulated instantly. Some saw humility, others saw calculation. But either way, the message was clear: the balance of power had shifted. For Crockett, that moment wasn't triumph. It was validation. It proved that confidence grounded in principle can outlast arrogance dressed as authority. She had faced down someone with years of institutional clout and walked away untarnished. To those watching from the sidelines, young activists, community leaders, anyone ever told to know their place, she became a quiet symbol of defiance done right. By Friday, hashtags had evolved into movements. Hashtag Stand Like Jasmine trended across platforms, attached to stories of ordinary people confronting intimidation, in workplaces, in classrooms, online. It was as if her calm defiance had given others permission to find their own voice. Analysts noted the irony. Bondi had intended to silence a critic, yet ended up amplifying her message tenfold. Political figures weighed in too. Some praised Crockett's courage. Others accused the media of glorifying conflict. Yet beneath the debate lay a universal truth. When transparency meets intimidation, truth eventually wins the audience. Crockett hadn't needed theatrics, just composure. And in a world obsessed with outrage, that composure became revolutionary. Weeks later, as attention drifted to new controversies, the moment still lingered like a watermark on the year's political memory. Scholars dissected it in op-eds about communication and ethics. Commentators compared it to historic congressional confrontations, moments when restraint became mightier than rhetoric. Crockett continued her work quietly, letting the echo of that day speak for itself. Bondi, for her part, retreated from the spotlight. She avoided the subject in interviews, redirecting questions to policy. But silence can't erase perception. To many, her warning symbolized the subtle ways power attempts to maintain its grip. Every replay of that clip reminded viewers that tone can reveal as much truth as testimony. And so, the hearing that began as routine ended as allegory. A story retold in classrooms, think pieces, and living rooms about how democracy depends not on the loudest voice, but the calmest courage. Crockett's words became a lesson whispered in 1,000 versions. Do not mistake civility for fear. Sometimes, the softest voice carries the sharpest edge. In the end, that's what people remembered. Not the gavel, not the headlines, but the moment when one woman refused to bend. Her measured response transformed a threat into a turning point. And somewhere between Bondi's warning and Crockett's reply, The nation glimpsed what accountability can look like when conscience refuses to flinch. Because every democracy needs reminders. Reminders that power, left unchecked, corrodes. That arrogance, left unchallenged, multiplies. Crockett's calm became that reminder. A quiet declaration that dignity still has a place in politics. If the story moved you, share it not for outrage but for awareness. Because courage, when witnessed, multiplies. And maybe that's the real warning we should all heed. Not to tread carefully, but to stand firmly wherever truth demands it.